Welcome to Around the Weird. Here's your host, the museum curator of the strange and unusual, Mr. Nothing.
Thank you, mysterious voice, and welcome back to Around the Weird, a booktube channel where I talk about all the unusual and out of the ordinary literature that I have found in my travels. Today, I want to talk about some more manga that I read from a series that I've been exploring. And today's manga is all about people with giant swords and Behelits. I am referring to Berserk, Volume 5 by Kentaro Miura, which was published in 1992. Once again, I've talked about Kentaro Miura on this channel before, so I don't need to go into that great detail, but he wrote a couple of mangas in his life, and some animes and some video games and whatnot. And he had a grand old time and is beloved for his work. But without further ado, let's talk about Volume 5 of Berserk, a series that I've been exploring and having quite a fun time with. I think at this point, I think it's safe to say that it's safe to say that the Berserk series is one that has a consistent high quality nature, because even with other things like Neil Gaiman's The Sandman, there were definitely some low points. And with another thing, Alan Moore's Swamp Thing series, again, a lot of great points, but there were some volumes that weren't as solid. But so far, with 5 volumes of Berserk, it has been nothing but nonstop fun and laughs and shenanigans and high quality times with our good old boy Guts. So I definitely recommend that you go seek this out. I, of course, will spoil this, so if you're very interested in reading the series, I suggested starting at Volume 1 and working your way through the series along with me. But without further ado, let's talk about Volume 5. I will do a summary, a little bit of analysis, and we will move on from there. So Volume 5 picks up shortly after where Volume 4 left off. Guts is part of the Hawks. The band of the Hawk. He's been sort of not inducted, but like he's part of the military outfit, the band of mercenaries that Griffith is a part of, and he's having a great time, feeling like he belongs, although not willing to say that out loud. And Guts fights, and one day he finds himself outnumbered, but Griffith saves him in battle. He does have some troubles with Baska, who views him as reckless and impulsive, which he is, very reckless and self-destructive, and noting how that's going to put everyone in danger one day. But Griffith doesn't seem to be as offended or upset with all of that. And everyone seems to be happy that Guts is there. They throw a celebration for him, which Guts doesn't really like, but he's willing to feel their support and love and whatnot, showing that he seems to be in a much better place than he was before, where he was seeking his own doom and being chased around and hunted by people who did not like him. We also see Griffith's charm. Guts becomes more endeared to him, but the other members, like they say they don't quite know a lot about Griffith and that he's a bit mysterious, but his charm makes them feel loved and supported, and so they're willing to fight alongside him. Very unusual thing for soldiers to say, but hey, we all gotta get our support from somewhere. At the same time, Griffith and Guts are talking and hanging out when Guts sees Griffith's necklace, and he wonders what's on the necklace, and Griffith tells him it's a Behelit, which if you've read Volume 2 before, you know that's a device used for evil. Why does Griffith have it? Well, we are going to find out sooner or later, but Griffith notes that he has plans for his own kingdom, which Guts has some doubts about, because how can a mercenary rise up and have his own kingdom? It seems a bit far-fetched. But then the story flashes forward to 3 years later, where Guts is still a bit reckless, but he's become more ingrained in the band of the Hawks. They have a lot more victories, and Griffith is even named a Viscount. So he's gained a position of power, and a lot of people are surrounding himself because they want to share some of that power and prestige. But meanwhile, Guts has gone off and led his squad of people to do a siege or an attack of a castle. And what's worrying is that some of the other people note that the castle is being guarded by Nosferatu Zodd, a soldier who is rumored to be over 100 years old. Occasionally he'll die, but he'll always come back later. And there's a lot of rumor about how dangerous this person is. And they're all worried whether or not Guts and his men can defeat this person. And indeed, Guts sends his people into a castle, but they don't seem to come out. And so Guts decides to head in there, where he encounters a demonic person, a demon, Nosferatu Zodd, which Guts is surprised by because he hasn't encountered any demons yet. And he has a great fight with Zodd, who views him as a compelling enemy, a worthy foe, but unfortunately no match for Zodd in the end. And just as it looks like Zodd is about to kill Guts, Griffith shows up with his men, and they fight off Zodd, but Zodd once again overpowers these men, and it appears that he might even kill Griffith in the process. However, Zodd sees the Behelit that Griffith is using and realizes that Griffith has magic or is using magic that he's not ready to fight. And before going, Griffith is unconscious, but Zodd says to Guts, be careful of your friendship with this man, because his ambition will lead to your death as well, and in addition to his own. And so Zodd leaves, presumably to fight Guts another day. And Guts, while Griffith is in the hospital, Guts has a conversation with Bosca. She notes that this is kind of Guts' fault for being headstrong and just running into a fight that he might not have been able to fully handle. But Guts is extremely angry about this because he's probably wondering why he's so self-destructive. It's a conversation he's never really had with himself. And as the story comes to a close, Guts has a conversation with Griffith, where Griffith talks about the existence of gods and demons, and how he notes that there might not completely be a difference between the two, and he doesn't really mind, and how he keeps saving Guts because Guts is worth saving. He refuses to just let Guts die on his own because he wants to decide when and how Guts will eventually die, showing that Griffith is a bit arrogant but has grand plans for the future, and that's where it ends there. In terms of analysis, there is a fair bit to talk about with Volume 5. You don't really see so much of the self-destruction and the trauma from the previous volume, but rather what happens after Guts gets into a better place. You see that he's able to let his guard down, and indeed that's one of the themes that Miura is working with here. Guts no longer upset or trying to push people away. He doesn't seem to be thinking about the person who sexually assaulted him, and he still has Gambino on his mind, but it's because there's that lingering sort of presence that he hasn't completely forgiven himself for what happened to Gambino, and how Gambino was a big part of his life at one point. The worries of his past are kind of fading away as part of the Hawks when he has a better support system, and that might be the case for other people in the Hawks as well. Allow me to read you an interesting quote from this. "On his own, no one of us is any big deal, no different from any other mercenary. It's just that unlike other mercenaries who are so hardened they think only about money and their own survival, we're a little different. Around here, while we do spend every blood-filled day killing and being killed, it's strange, but we can also cry, laugh, get angry, whatever." And that's one of the mercenaries noting to Guts that, life in the Hawks is a little bit different, that other soldiers are hardened and only thinking about money, which is what Guts is, and also was a lot more in the past, but he's becoming softer, more friendly, more willing to joke around and roughhouse and just play with his fellow soldiers. Guts here has structure and support even during a time of war. It's a very welcoming place. The other soldiers aren't telling him, like Gambino's outfit, like they aren't sexually assaulting him for one, but they aren't telling him that he's a waste of space, a waste of time, that he'd be better off dead, or that he's just sucking away resources that would be better spent elsewhere. It's amazing what happens when you remove yourself from that negative environment. But again, the trauma isn't necessarily gone. The trauma still remains. There's you see that in the conflict with Bosca, where Bosca keeps saying, like, why do you keep doing this destructive behavior? Like you're going to ruin things for the mercenaries when you go headlong into a fight without thinking, without backup, without considering what's going to happen when you do that. And I think right there you see Guts' self-destructive nature coming into conflict with the mercenary band of hawks that he's with. That he still hasn't reckoned with the trauma that's there. He hasn't addressed it, and so as long as that's happening, as long as he refuses to talk about it or address it or just shove it deep down and focus on it at a later point, like that self-destructive behavior is always going to be there, because on some level he feels that he is a burden, or that he doesn't deserve to live, or that he'd rather die than deal with life's pains, which is very sad. But that's the case for a lot of people, and Miura is showing that, like, even though you can be in a supportive environment, you still need to talk about this kind of thing, or you're never truly going to heal. Another interesting aspect of Volume 5 is Miura's focus on Griffith and his charm. Griffith appears to be a shining star in a dreadful world. He's laughing about everything, and he's really chill, especially in combat when everyone else is panicked or angry or ready to draw blood. A fun little example is when after a battle, Griffith is naked, having a shower, and he invites Guts along to have fun with him, even though he's naked. Another instance of the homoeroticism at play in the Berserk series. But that difference between Griffith and like how he's fun and he's having a great time, and other people want to be involved in that, because it's one of the things that lets Griffith put down his guard. And so he feels his support, he feels Griffith's charisma, and the other Hawks feel that as well, and they want to be a part of that. There's another interesting quote that I would like to read to you from this. But something about him is different from us. There are things that simple mercenaries like us only hear about in absurd drinking tales, things that he would think of and do like they were nothing. I can't really describe it. It's not just his swordsmanship and his tactics. Ordinary people like us don't understand Griffith. It might take him longer than a lifetime to achieve it, but I guess he must have some kind of conviction. And that's fascinating, because it's them acknowledging that Griffith is different, like he has conviction, but he also has charisma, he has charm, and he's willing to fight for what he wants in the world, including a kingdom. Now, he might also have a secret power-up in the form of a Behelit that's helping him, but he's willing to do anything and everything to accomplish what he wants. And Guts feels his support and confidence. It seems like Griffith might be his actual friend, or someone who's as close to a friend as Guts can get. But in addition to all of that, there's also a sense of arrogance, because at one point he says to Guts, "I decide where you will die." Like, he saved Guts earlier, and now he owns Guts. Guts belongs to him. The homoeroticism, but also the arrogance on display there. That's gonna put them at odds at one point, because Guts is gonna run afoul of Griffith, and that's gonna be the thing that decides where Griffith decides that he has to end Guts right then and there. Who's going to win that? Given that we know that Griffith is really powerful, that remains to be seen, and is probably going to be present in a later volume. There's other high quality things about Volume 5. I do like Miura's less is more writing, which I might have noted in previous volumes, specifically how he relies completely on imagery and just character sort of expressions in order to get the plot across. A lot of the time, Guts will they'll just be dot icons, ellipses, or exclamation marks based on what he says. There's not a really extensive conversations in this series, but you still get an understanding of what's going on in that, which I think is very fascinating. And then you also have the dormant nihilism, which I noted in the previous volumes. You haven't seen it as much in volume 4 or 5, but Miura is hinting at that. In the intro to one specific volume, he notes that humans have no control over their will. They're just sometimes just playthings for the gods, and they're fighting war so that they can feel something, that there's no inherent meaning to anything. And that's probably going to play a stronger role as we continue with this series. But it's interesting how nihilism has been such a constant throughout this series. And the last thing I'll note is Bosca again. In the previous volume, I noted that Bosca looked a little too similar to Guts in a way that made it hard to distinguish between the two. And here, Bosca is given a slightly different art style that makes it easy to tell the difference between her and Guts, which I do appreciate. I'm pretty sure Miura didn't do it specifically for me, but I'm sure it was a problem for other people, and so now it's just a better art style and a lot easier, especially again when not a lot of dialogue is used. Anyway, those are my thoughts on Volume 5 of Berserk. Another high-quality entry, as I noted before. I think that the Berserk series is consistently good in a way that makes me want to continue to read it. There haven't really been any low points. I'd say this might have been a low point because, again, it was focused mostly on Guts and his relationship to Griffith, but there's a lot to take in from that, a lot to really get out of the characters of Guts and Griffith and see where this is going to lead. So I definitely can't wait to read Volume 6, and I of course recommend that you check out this series if you haven't done so already. If you have anything to say about my review, do so in the comments below. Like, share, and subscribe so that more people can find out about this series or this author if they don't already know. Otherwise, join the Discord so that other people can find out or other people can have conversations in there. We can talk about movies as well. A lot of fun to be had there. And until then, I wish you the best of luck in your weird and Bahilit travels. Farewell.